aside from having to talk to me, Matt, how is your day going so far?
It's good. It's been a busy start to the new year so far. Getting a lot of shows lined up, and today's just one of those days. Just busy working, but I can't complain.
Before I dig into a bit of that about your busy 2023, what's the hierarchy on calling you Matt versus Matthew? Because when your band is called the Matthew Curry Band, people assume you're Matthew, but you're Matt.
I'm Matt. Yeah. Yeah. To all the people that know me best and friends, I'm Matt. So, and you and I are new friends, so feel free to call me whatever you'd like.
Well, thank you very much. And it came to my attention that you have a gig at the Iridium, a lot of great venues over the next few months. And you're one of those artists who's on the road more than not these days. When did you realize that that was going to be the real deal part of the career as opposed to making a new album every year?
Well, I guess it just kind of worked out that way. When you're on the road that much, it is kind of difficult. It does prove difficult to be in the studio or find as much time to sit down and write and have time for that kind of stuff. So it just kind of worked out that way. And, I guess I can't complain about it because I really love playing live. I mean, I think that's my favorite aspect of doing this as a career is the playing live part. Granted, I love being in the studio and those certain moments when the light bulb clicks and a song comes together or just more or less falls in your lap. That's an equally as good feeling. But playing live in front of a crowd is by far that's the highlight for me.
The venue that I mentioned that's here in New York, the Iridium, where you'll be next month. An interesting thing about that venue is a lot of the artists who play there use it to do low-key gigs or side project things where they can really play what they want. So, for example, Steve Lukather from Toto will be playing arenas and huge festivals, and then he'll play the Iridium, which holds 150, 200 people. And in your case, that's similar to your career, where in playing all these gigs around Steve Miller and Peter Frampton and all that, you play the sheds, but sometimes you're in a club too.
Yeah, man. We've been super fortunate to have gone out, as you mentioned, with Peter and Steve. And interesting fact for any viewers or listeners that might know, I'm sure you know that the Iridium being Les Paul's club, originally Les Paul is Steve Miller's godfather. And so there's kind of a weird connection there. But we're just happy to play anywhere we can and anywhere people are willing to put up with us, really. So.
Well, another connection now that we're doing connections here, Steve Miller's current drummer, Ron Wixow, played drums in the early 90s for an artist named David Lee Roth. And your drummer, Francis, plays with David Lee Roth. So you have both dealt with Roth drummers.
Well, that's actually news to me. I knew, I hadn't seen Steve live in quite some time. And I knew that because when we were on the road with him, he had this gentleman named Gordy out playing drums with him. And I had seen some recent pictures of shows they did this past summer with a new guy playing drums, but I did not know the Roth connection. So that's awesome, man.
Yeah, I believe between Roth and Steve Miller, Ron Wixow did time with Foreigner, with The Storm, which was, I think, Greg Raleigh. So, legit guy who can clearly play, like your backing band. Who else is in your band besides the aforementioned Francis Valentino?
Yeah, so we have Francis on drums, and actually Francis and I work together a lot on producing and mixing and engineering, arranging a lot of the stuff in the studio, but that can be a side topic. But we have Tim Brickner on bass. Tim is, I guess, besides myself, the longest running member, original member in the band. God bless him for still putting up with me after all these years. And on this coming tour in February, we have Anthony Sherry on guitar, who is kind of an East Coast native, makes his way around in the Jersey and New York area quite a bit. And this will be his first tour playing guitar with us and singing harmonies if he catches this interview, which I'm sure he will at some point. No pressure, Sherry. But we've had a lot of guys come and go kind of in that position that play either rhythm guitar, sing harmonies, or play keys and sing harmonies. And we've gone out as a 5-piece band. Sometimes we've gone out as a trio. But the core unit has always been Francis, Tim, and myself. So
right. Sometimes you're doing it solo. Sometimes you have 3 people backing you. Sometimes it's 4 people backing you. Who's it that has to break in the people when you got the gigs, you go, that guy's not available, rotate? Is it you that goes, okay, show up and this is what we're doing?
For the most part, we're pretty lucky to have, between us three, the core three guys in the band, we're pretty lucky to have a lot of kind of a big pool of people that we can reach out to. For example, you mentioned Francis playing with Roth. So there's been some times where we've had conflicting dates where Francis is out with Roth and we need someone to fill his shoes for a handful of shows or something. So we've been fortunate to have a couple kind of guys that we can call on to do that. But typically, as far as breaking guys in, man, that's, what we've done is we've done it so many times. And in that particular case, for the rhythm guy, kind of harmony singer, that we've actually went in and recorded like tracks of our rehearsals and went in and re-recorded like rhythm guitar parts and harmony parts that I would kind of go in and overdub and pan them hard right and send them to these guys and say, hey, all your parts are hard right and my parts are hard left. So it's kind of differentiated and makes it a little easier for them learning the tunes. Hopefully. I would hope that's the intention anyway.
That topic was fresh on my mind because in Motley Crue right now, John 5 is stepping in and replacing Mick Mars. And once a week or so, John 5 posts a video of him playing guitar on his couch with his hairless cat walking all over him. Have you seen any of these videos?
I've seen that. Yeah.
And it's, the guitar is cut out, or at least the lead guitar part that he's playing is cut out. So it's kind of thinking, do more bands do this, that they have somebody that can immediately remove all of that and they have the stems ready? And the reason I'm asking is because obviously when Motley did their albums, it wasn't on Pro Tools. I believe Motley Crue was Feel Good album. Dr. Feel Good album was weirdly when the first digital albums made. But it's not like Shout at the Devil was made with isolated tracks so much.
Right. I'm sure it's more and more of a common thing. I think probably bands, I suppose, more at our level that, like you said, do the sheds and do the clubs and a mixture of everything in between, where we're not, perhaps, for lack of better terms, raking in the dough as much as maybe Roth or Motley Crue are, to where you kind of have to have interchangeable guys. It's probably much more of a common thing as to where Steve Miller, for example, probably tries to stick with the core unit as long as he can. But I would have to imagine it's a pretty common thing to approach musicians and kind of hired guns, if you will, that way. So
yeah. And if you don't mind this comparison here, your career path reminds me of Aaron Lee Tashian. Not sure if you know who he is, but
I don't. It gives me homework to do after this chat here.
Last time I checked, he was on New West Records, and he's a Nashville-based artist who did his time in Ohio and New York and all that. But some people know him as this solo artist who can play solo. Other people, this full band solo artist. Other people as the sideman who'll co-write and produce your stuff. Other times he's just that classic rock artist person that the artists that the classic rock artists bring on stage for a couple songs. Like Kevin Kinney from Driving and Crying goes, that's my guy, and he comes on stage and does a couple of songs. One of those things where you mean a lot of different things to a lot of different people, where if somebody meets you on a plane, Matt, they go, what do you do for a living? And you go, well, I'm sort of a solo artist, but I'm sort of a writer, but I'm sort of a sideman. One of those existences.
I think that's you hit the nail on the head with that, because just in this past year, actually, I've found myself getting offers to do sideman gigs, which I had never really done. And so I found myself being the guy that was having people in other bands send me tracks, and I have to sit down and learn. And it was really a fun experience and a great learning experience for myself. One of the key kind of offers that I got never ended up really coming through out on the road, but we kind of got into the learning process and almost into the rehearsal process. But so it was, it was a cool new experience for me. But then, yeah, at the same time, I'm always trying to focus on how I can advance my own career and intermingle with different writers and musicians here in the Nashville area. and anything to just kind of rub elbows with people in the industry, man.
Right. When did you make the decision to move to Nashville? And I ask that because nowadays it seems like everybody in Nashville's from LA, Vegas, or New York.
Yeah, so unfortunately for myself, I made the decision to move here in October 2019. And things were kind of it was a super good move to begin with. Things were kind of ramping up based on the fact that I had moved here and started making some connections again. And 4 months later, or whatever it was, everything, the bottom fell out of everything. So, but it was about 4 years ago, and I'm originally from Bloomington, Illinois, and it's always home. It's always great to go back and see family. Of course, I miss my family dearly, although we get back and visit quite often. But I don't see myself going back anytime soon. I really enjoy it here. It's a really fun place to be for a musician or anyone in the industry. But I will say it's getting crowded, man. It's getting really crowded.
Bloomington is a hell of a music city, not just because of Mellencamp. I've heard about that amazing jazz school that is there, of all places that it could possibly be. I heard the Dalai Lama's brother lives there. Is that true as well in Bloomington?
So you might be mistaken Bloomington, Indiana for Bloomington, Illinois.
You know what? I am. I'm not going to edit that mistake out because, hey, we all make mistakes as trivia people. So the other Bloomington has
the other Bloomington, the Bloomington that that Mellencamp is not from, unfortunately. However,
and I think David Lee Roth, I think, spent a little time in Bloomington, Indiana as well. So your Roth world and radar just keeps almost out.
Right. I keep learning new things about it. Someday maybe I'll get to meet Dave, and I don't know if I could keep up with jamming with those guys. That whole Van Halen thing was never, the tapping. I never got good at that, but would certainly love to meet him and hang out and stuff. But you're right. Yeah, the realm of the Dave thing keeps getting closer and closer.
When you can't shred, you play bass or rhythm guitar. So there's your out. But Bloomington, Illinois, did that give the world any musical excellence besides yourself?
Well, oh God, not that I'm any sort of excellent player, but thank you. But Bloomington and surrounding towns within like a 30 to 40 mile radius had some heavy hitting bands. I can't say specifically Bloomington, but there is a town about 40 minutes southeast from Bloomington called Champaign, Illinois.
Oh yeah.
And a lot of people don't know that Irving Azoff kind of came out of that area.
With Dan Fogelberg, was it?
Yep. REO Speedwagon.
Yeah.
A lot of heavy hitters in that world. But then we've got on the other end, a little bit north west of Bloomington, there's Peoria, Illinois, where some blues greats came out of, Luther Allison being one, his son, Bernard Allison, who is still going and doing great things. So Bloomington is kind of sandwiched right in the middle. And you can certainly still feel all those worlds still existing in that region. And so I think it was a good place to grow up musically, because even just sitting in with certain like bar bands and stuff when I was really young, you'd hear stories from some of these older dudes like, oh yeah, I remember when REO used to come in here and, they were just kids and yada, yada. So just cool stuff like that out of that area.
What is it about that area that REO, Styx, Chicago, like 45% of classic rock radio came from that 40-mile radius?
I don't know. It's got to be like something in the dirt, right? Because I mean, you could even almost make an argument that that James Gang and Joe Walsh was kind of a Midwest thing, and sprouted out of that. I suppose not Illinois, but the connection to Irving being in Champaign. But. Yeah. So I don't know. It's like something happening with rock and roll and songwriting, I guess, in that area.
Well, back to you. 2 topics, 2 questions, and then we're going to let you roam free with the rest of your day. And the first one is 2023. Do we get more music from you, new music that the public can consume in the near future? We do. Yeah, that's in the works right now. We just released our first single in about, I think it's been almost 3 years now, just back in December.
and it is called "Don't Be a Stranger." It's a song that I'm real proud of. I was kind of just driving around in the car one day and had this concept of trying to write like a James Taylor-esque Carole King tune with almost more like Donny Hathaway style music behind it. And that was kind of the inspiration, but it was one of those that I was super happy because it just fell in my lap. So we just recently released that one, and we've got about a half a record ready to go. And right now it's just kind of plotting and planning as to how we want to release it. Do we want to continue to put some singles out? We've got some talks about music videos and stuff in the works. So to give you the short answer, yes, there is music to come, and hopefully it's much sooner this year rather than later.
Sounds good. And the last question for you, any acting roles in your near future coming up? Because you don't talk a lot about that acting role, but that means a lot to millions of people, that role that you had.
That's, it's funny that you mentioned that I don't talk a lot about it. I personally don't think I did a very good job. I never once had any aspiration to act or anything along those lines. And when I was approached with it, I'm like, why not? Why not give this a shot? And I remember to this day, being in the room shooting those scenes and just being more nervous than I have ever been in my entire life. But looking back at, with the editing and stuff that they did, it turned out pretty good. And but I'll never forget. I won't mention the any names here, but I'll never forget the producer of or director, I should say, of the film came up to me after everything was all said and done. And I think it's just hilarious. He came up to me, pulls me aside, and goes, "Let me tell you something." And I'm thinking he might say, "Oh, you did a nice job and keep working at it." But he pulled me aside and goes, "You better stick to playing guitar." So I will never forget that for the rest of my life. And if something fell in my lap, I would certainly give it another try. But I don't know if I'll be so sought after by anyone in the film industry anytime soon.
The character you play has been portrayed in other things as well, so it's not the only portrayal, and it's definitely not the worst portrayal. I'll put it to you that way. But you had your taste for Hollywood right there, and you know what not to do in the future. To focus on the upcoming dates like the Iridium,
That's right.
The music we're getting, the writing, the producing. So it sounds like your 2023 is off to a great start.
I think we're shaping up to have a better year than we've had, which is, easy to say, better year than we've had in the last probably 3 to 4 years. And I know that I am super thrilled. We're going to be hitting Florida for about a week and a half, I want to say, which is going to be good to get in the sunshine this time of year, and then working our way up the East Coast, as you said, playing the Iridium, which we have not visited the great city of New York in a very long time. So I'm excited to get back. And, it's going to be a great tour. We've got a lot of shows coming up besides the February run. And as I said, some great music in the works. And I'm really, really happy and really couldn't be more excited.
Paltrocast.